Beautiful folks, what is up and how are you doing? I hope you're having a good one. This is Valentine the Plug, and today I just want to take a little bit more time to delve into my choice of pads, how I apply pads, and how I process them. And the beat that we're going to be using today is this beat. It's called the Lost Time Freestyle. I made it 2 months ago. It is an alternative dark R&B kind of beat, which really is reminiscent of the sound that Black had on his Free Black record, which I'm a fan of. So I'm gonna play the beat and then we're heading straight into the pad. Okay, so obviously when making this beat, I was looking for a pad, all right? So I went into Omnisphere, I took out the blue Selena patch, and I ended up with this pad, which I'm gonna take the processing off right now, which sounded like this. Cool. Really synthy pad, really reminiscent of the 80s. I absolutely loved it, but it did need some processing, and that's what I immediately started to do. The biggest player in my processing chain is the equalizer, and that is because I have a certain effect that I always want to achieve with my pads. That is that underwater effect. That is easily achieved by performing some very big cuts until you have mostly low mid frequencies left. So I don't need the deep low frequencies, I don't need the high frequencies, the harmonics. I just want low mid frequencies. That's the sound that I like for my pads. This is the most apparent effect. The rest of the effects are going to be super subtle, such as a chorus effect. Now if you don't know what a chorus does, it basically your input signal, it gets duplicated and then it gets delayed by a few milliseconds, causing you to hear two different voices, and that's very cool on guitars and vocals. Of course, it's mostly cool on monophonic instruments. Pads are usually do have multiple voices, so the effect is going to be subtle. Why do I use it? Because I like it. I love it. I absolutely love it, and it is still noticeable. Check it out. Lovely, lovely. So I got my EQ, I got my chorus. Next up is a phaser. Phaser based almost the same principle. So an input signal gets duplicated. However, the waveforms are meant to move in a way where they cancel each other out. And trust me, if you want to get into the nitty-gritty of phase, there's people that are better than I at explaining that, and Google is free. My G, Google is free. But what I like is hearing the waveforms cancel each other out. I think that's a very cool cosmetic effect, and it adds some very important movement to the pad. It makes the pad more interesting. It makes it more than just, this layer of sustained note, but it really, that coming and going is a form of movement that I really appreciate in my pads, and I suggest you start using it in your pads too, my G. All right, so that's what I like about phaser. You can use any phaser you want, you can use any chorus you want, you can use any EQ you want. These are just the ones that I like and have been able to achieve the most success with. So EQ, chorus, phaser, then comes Shaperbox. So Shaperbox is this big Swiss knife. It allows you to manipulate time, it allows you to manipulate volume, it allows you to manipulate the pan, and I've done all three. So immediately when using Shaperbox, I started taking out the time shaper because, like I said, with the phaser, movement is important to my pads, right? So I started adding Shaperbox for a stutter effect, basically like gross beat. Sounds like this. The shit basically mangles your entire sound. I turned down the mix slider because I don't want it to be how do I say it? Is basically if I take the mix slider up to 100%, it's going to start interfering with each other because it doesn't cut itself off, so you get a lot of release, and that's really going to sound muddy, and you can't time it to your beat and stuff like that. Forget it. I turned down the mix knob. Then I started using volume shaper. I set it down to 1/4 because I wanted that gated pumping effect. You hear that a lot in trance, techno, EDM, that like it's pumping. You get that with a compressor too, and I think that's also a very nice cosmetic effect to have on your pads. Like I said, movement is important. So then it sounds like this. Cool, so we're almost at the finish line. Pan. I really wanted to go from left to right subtle, so that's why I chose a curve. You know, I wanted to sweep from left to right. It's basically a sweep. So at the end of the road, you get this. Boom. And that's how I get my pads to sound the way that they sound. Super interesting, super clean, and just valuable additions to my vibe and my beat. So what I'm really trying to achieve with my pads and my processing is ambience. I think that's very important. Ambience, a vibe, the atmosphere, just a general feeling. You can have a very evocative chord progression that has a lot of emotion, that is super smooth, but a pad is just that icing on the cake. I can't explain the science behind why it's so good, but I like it. And y'all like it too, because y'all, if you're watching this video, you like pads too. So anyway, I hope that my breakdown suffices. I hope this inspires you to experiment more with pads. If you feel like putting me onto some dope pad patches, just drop it in the comment. And if you've got any questions about my pad processing, drop them in the comments too. I'd be happy to help you out. This is Valentine the Plug. Y'all be easy now. Peace.